Kia ora and welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Plenty to talk about after an All Blacks team was named for the Rugby World Cup with some interesting choices, an interesting forward-back mix. The winners, the losers, we'll get into all of that. Bledisloe too as well. It went really badly until it went really well for the All Blacks. What happened there? How do mistakes become contagious? And how was it that they managed to turn it all around? Jordie Barrett joins us on the podcast to talk a little bit about moving into the midfield, amongst other things in his career, and also the shakedown from the weekend's international games and what they mean in the context of Rugby World Cup a month away. So, with no further ado, joining me in the studio, in our old studio just for today.
Beautiful.
James Parsons.
How are?
Yeah, good mate, good. And down in Christchurch, this is really like old times. Down in Christchurch, Bryn Hall. Bryn, thanks for joining us.
No, good to be here, lads. Good to have you back, Jibba.
We saw how the All Blacks went on the weekend. We went into the World Cup selections, and I think everyone was wondering about what would happen with the mixture in the forwards and the backs. They've gone with an extra outside back, and I think most presume that that's probably Caleb Clark, who is the benefactor of that. And they've only gone with 4 forwards and 4 locks and 5 loose forwards. Interesting mix, considering the attrition you usually get in those positions, Bryn.
I think if you do look at that loose forward trio, and we talked about it a lot at the start of the year, the versatility of players, and so Shannon Frizzell can cover that, can cover the lock area. Tupou Vai can obviously cover that lock 6. Jacobson can cover all 3. So other than really Sam Cane, who's seen as an out-and-out 7, a lot of that loose forward trio can cover a lot of positions. So, but interested, just again with the attrition rate, thought they would have covered another loose forward, but a lot of those guys can cover multiple positions. So I think that's probably the thinking, having 5 looses and 4 locks and having that extra outside back in the outsides.
I think Barrett is a 6 as well. Like they've used him as a 6. So especially with those 3, I know Brodie's going to be out for the first, but those 3 playing so well, and if they're caught a little bit short, he can do a job there. I did think Finau had played his way in. Like after the weekend, I thought, man, like he was 100% gain line in every carry. I think 80% of the meters he made were post-contact meters. So he's taking those tough carries, but then coming out the other side. He's one of the 3 that are travelling up, and he'll be available. But it is. I'm not 100% sure of the rules, but it's not as easy as you think to replace. So I think that squad balance, there may be some concerns about someone else that may be carrying an injury that we don't know about, maybe in that outside back area. And then I think potentially Leicester's ability. I think it's brought the best out of Leicester that he's been on the wing for the Crusaders all year, and he's dominant there, but he has shown he has the ability to potentially move into that midfield as well. They've used Caleb a lot this year, and they've changed his position to coming off the bench. So they've obviously got some plan around him, and I think, as I mentioned, I think Leicester probably can fill that centre role. Or they want that 2 power. I'm not too sure. I think a lot of it has to do how you can enter players into the squad with the World Cup. It's a complicated process. They can't play for like 48 hours. I think there has to be a couple of injuries. So it's not like that's all the planning, proactive planning they have to do for the what-if scenarios.
Yeah, it is very interesting to see why they've done that. But I think, with Amoni Narawa, being injured as well, like Jip said, we might not be privy to the information around how bad his injuries with his back, not being able to play since Argentina. So, you have the risk of being able to cover with an extra outside back. And again, I think just with the versatility that we have in our locks with Barrett and Vi being able to cover that 6 area with Shannon Frizzell out and out 6, you've just got a bit of versatility and flexibility in that area. But if there are injuries in that loose forward trio, which does have a high attrition rate at Test match footy, then I think coming back to what you said, Jip, they must have done some preparation in and around what that's going to look like if they need to bring guys on like Samipeni Finau, who was travelling for that South African game before the World Cup.
And also, I think on the weekend, Offa played so well coming off the bench at loosehead, and it made a real statement that he can do both sides. So I honestly thought they might go with 5 props, and then that would be the extra loosey there. I probably wasn't so fixated on the outside. I genuinely thought that's where the extra spot would come from. But they've gone with the 6, so they're probably worried, if you do use the Wallabies as an example, they've lost, 4 props in the space of 2 weeks. Not from the World Cup, but you know what I mean? Like, injuries can happen fast, and as I don't want to labour the point, but the entry rules aren't that easy to get players in, so that's probably why they've gone for, sort of those specialists.
Is it common for Test squads to carry 2 props that can cover both sides? Because we talked around one.
But I think like previously they've used Ben Franks, who can cover, and I don't know where they took it might have been the Lucies they took in 2015, an extra Lucy. But I think it's fair to say Offa genuinely can cover both sides. Like Tamati has 2 tests. It would be unfair to probably, in a World Cup to chuck him out at tight head at this stage. I think like he'll really want to dominate that loose head position, which is his natural position, whereas Offa's come the other way. Offa's a tight head that's moved to learn loose head, and my understanding from all the props I know is moving from loose head to tight head. Tight head's a big role. That's why it's so well paid in like France and the UK, because she's the cornerstone of your platform basically, and the style they play out there.
Let's talk, Bryn, about Brad Weber, because I don't think I've seen a very strong answer as to why Brad Weber is not in there and Finlay Christie is. They've talked about skill sets, but without any serious detail. What about Brad Weber isn't as good as Finlay Christie right now for the All Black selectors, do you think?
I don't think it's just unfortunate for Brad, because he's just very similar to Aaron Smith, and Aaron Smith doesn't get injured. So they see Finn as a different type of style, and that's why they've gone with him, I think.
He's jinxed him.
Wow.
Brad, you'll be in there, mate. Bryn's just jinxed him. Aaron Smith doesn't get injured. You've heard it there first. My God. Holy dooly.
He doesn't get injured, mate. He does not get injured. So,
yeah, the conspiracy theorists out there. If he goes down against South Africa, I tell you what, I'm coming round to your boozer.
What I would say though, considering that he's been left out of the World Cup squad, this is Brad Weber, and you get a phone call saying, but actually, can you come with us for a couple of weeks beforehand?
I'd rather that. I've been on the receiving end of a phone call where you don't get back in at all. So yeah. It's that would be much preferred.
Yeah, but I'm sure it just takes a little bit of something. You've got a bit of character about you to take that phone call, put on a smile and say, yes, sir, I'll be there.
But he's got that in droves. Sometimes that plays against players that are good at that as well. They know that he's going to turn up ready to rock and roll. He's shown it before. What was it? In between his tests, it was 2 years or something.
Yeah.
So, there's no one's ever going to question it. And he's just such a competitor, like all nines. Like, he'll see it as a challenge, and he will be red hot.
Is this squad only locked in come the kickoff of the World Cup? So let's say someone gets injured in those 2 weeks leading
I think
it.
it's once they go in.
So you can swap again, but it's just the moment that they say, okay, this is the first week of the World Cup, this is the Monday, sorry, the squads are locked off.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't know it, but you'd have to think if there's injuries against South Africa, then those 3 players are there for a reason.
Yeah.
And then they're there for a little bit longer, and then...
Yeah. Maybe jump on a Kontiki bus or something and head around the continent just for a little while.
There's a few PU CEOs saying, no thanks, get back here and get into the NPC. And probably an All Blacks camp as well that wants you hot. I mean, speaking of Joe Moody, obviously he came into that squad late, didn't he? And he came in hot, and then through what is now almost an iconic offload in All Blacks history, it was a star in 2015 because of it. Yeah, and I think, he'll be back in 10 days, and World Cup's brutal, so there's definitely going to have to be players called up. It's just a reality of rugby.
You spent a lot of time with Amoni Narawa while he came into the Blues at a young age, didn't you? And he was, the word on the street was this kid had something about him, but he didn't quite get there then.
He just he got injured a lot. Like when they come in young, like Super Rugby is a big jump from the NPC, and he's always had the talent, whether, potentially was he a fullback, was he a wing, maybe didn't get clarity on where he sat, but every time he got an opportunity, or even in the development side, he'd pull up with a niggle. So it just stems that flow. And rugby's quite a ruthless business. Is like if you're on the field, off the field a lot more than you are actually even available, it just, perceptions get made, and he obviously other guys like an AJ Lamb and stuff were coming through, so they had to make room at the Blues to reward his form and his ability on the pitch. And I think Amoni has matured a hell of a lot, and he said this publicly after having his daughter. It's just, his focus is to get home from training and get into sort of that family life, rather than maybe previously it was about, being with the lads, or, his focus is razor sharp at home, and normally 9 times out of 10 what you do away from the training base is the same sort of behaviours you'll see within the training base. So he's always had the talent, but it sounds like his focus, in his own words, has been razor sharp this season, and probably last. Like, he was really good for Bay of Plenty last season, the NPC, and then he took his opportunity when he got into that Chiefs environment.
That's a really interesting point. So if you're working to certain schedules, if you're disciplined, if you've got empathy, if you've got all those things that you need at home in your family life,
I believe that.
It translates.
I believe that. I think, behavioural scientists say the same, but I didn't do a degree in it, so I can't say. But in my personal opinion, is the most rehearsed action will come to life under pressure.
Yeah.
So if 9 times out of 10 you're nailing these behaviours, then when you're under pressure and you get in that pressure environment, those behaviours will come forward, versus other behaviours that you may dot your I's, cross your T's when the eyes are on you, but then maybe not be doing it when the eyes are off you. So when the pressure comes on, it's just the most learned behaviour will rise.
You got the same take, Brett?
I look at my time when, there are a lot of times where in those kind of quarterfinal, semi-final, final stages, the kind of preparation side that went into that's just obviously a team element, but the good players, the consistent players that you hear from time to time again for years and years, the behaviours that they have in trainings on and off the field, and when they've got that all sorted, you get that when you're with them, with maturity of age, obviously, but it looks like Namoni has got it right, obviously, with his little kid, and on the field as well. Being able to get on the field is your currency. We say it a lot here. Getting on the field and being able to perform consistently and making yourself available has given himself an opportunity now to go to the Rugby World Cup, and due to his performance in the last 12 months.
So you would have loved this, Chipper. We've got Tamati Williams obviously coming up on the podcast next week, and he had a quote that you would have absolutely loved.
Oh yeah, I'll utilise it.
Yeah. Your best ability is your availability. And I immediately
that's exactly
thought,
what it is.
Yeah.
The less available you are, the less attractive you become.
Yeah.
And I mean that's professional sport. Like it's brutal, but it is what it is.
It's really, really interesting though to hear how that translates off the field.
But I think the other thing about it is one of the best performance tools to get better is self-awareness. And Amoni's come out and said, my discipline, my focus, since I've had my little girl, is this. So he's self-aware enough of that, and he's comfortable in his own skin to say it publicly, which only means, like, when you go into a review, you're not just looking for all the good stuff. You're open to saying, I'm not good at this. In terms of that performance, grind and wanting to get better, and not just being satisfied, not being complacent. Because he was playing so well, it'd be easy to go, it's just going to happen. But it's the moment you let go of that consistent preparation and that self-awareness of where your game's at and what area may need some fine-tuning is the moment that your purple patch will end.
And the way that the modern winger plays now is you cannot, Bryn, just wait out on the wings. You've got to be involved. You've got to have a work ethic. You've got to be
Leicester
approaching
was
it like that.
massive on the weekend. Like, how often did you see him enter himself into the game?
Now, Jordie Barrett didn't play on the weekend. Anton Leonard-Brown was getting a bit of game time, but we had a chance to catch up with Jordie Barrett as part of our series, catching up with All Blacks leading into the World Cup. Of course, he's moved into the midfield from fullback. He talks us through that and how those things have changed, bulking up, and of course, a little bit about his golf, because The lad plays off a 1, and that's quite impressive.
Ross, we obviously talk rugby here, but I'm going to go straight into it with golf. What are you shooting now? 71, 72s? Just
at this time of the year, my handicap, that's not very sustainable because you're only out there once a week, and if it's wet, well then 0 times a week. But in the summer, you're allowed to get out there a wee bit more, and sometimes after.
So you're running scratch?
One. Yeah.
Geez, that must be nice saying that, mate. Must be nice.
I'll tell you what, and a one shot can make a lot of difference down the stretch. Number one stroke hole.
Yeah, and the other boys, are they in the similar zone?
Yeah, a lot of them are single figures. I think Damien, he's on about a 5. Bodie's similar. Will might be on a 7 or 8 now, and some handy enough golfers around. Nuggy, he's off about an 8 or 9. He can go low at any time too. So there's a bit going on. Tyrell Lomax swings it well for a front rower. He's 12 or 13 now, so he's improving massively.
He had a big ball, I reckon, eh?
Yeah.
A big ball.
Do you go big ball? I presume your goal kicking would suggest maybe you go big.
Not really. I get it out there well enough, but I'm not an overly big hitter. I just don't have too good a rotation, and playing midfield now doesn't help that either.
You must be doing something right. You're playing off at 1, so I think you don't need to hit a ball that long then.
So you've stacked on the kilos for the midfield, and it's made it so you can't get around so easy.
Yeah, I can see why Tyrell, the big front rowers, and all the forwards look so rigid all the time. Bit of a sore Gary Jack, but it certainly helps your golf. Certainly helps your footy, in my opinion. Frees you up all the time.
Yeah. All right. So have you had to put on a bit of weight to be a midfielder, mate, or have you stayed at the same kind of place? I mean, you're a big, tall bloke, but you were a kind of skinny guy early on. Yeah,
I think I come in and I was playing 12 or 13 for Canterbury, and I might have been 88 kilos, and now I'm playing at 105, so a bit of a disparity there.
Difference?
Yeah, and just slowly building it and building it.
Yeah, slowly built, and then more particularly in the last couple of years, or last year or so, since I've been playing 12, I was sitting around 99, 100 playing fullback, but I feel like I just need a little bit more on my frame now, particularly internationally. We've seen, you look at all the size of the opposition and particular opposition midfielders here around the world, there's some big boys now, so you've got to be able to carry it. It's a little bit harder in Super Rugby when they're trying to speed the game up a little bit, but you back your legs all the time, whereas international now, they're not too worried about that. There's stoppages, so you might as well carry an extra couple on your frame.
Have you found that? Because obviously playing with a bit more weight, it might be a bit harder on the lungs. You're obviously naturally fit, but did you find it take a little bit of time to get used to that?
Yeah, a little bit, within reason, as long as it's good weight. But the faster the game, the better for me. Personally, I know it hurts at some stages, but that's where I guess the fit guys create an edge over other people. If you work hard enough on it, and you're lucky enough when you're younger, gain a big fitness base, you want to be able to impact games in a certain way, and when it's slowed down, I feel like you don't get that advantage. So all the skinny, fast boys try and gain the advantage that way, so it's great when it's sped up and there's fatigue in the game.
Rico's fast. Is he the fastest guy doing the rounds in the team?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's certainly the fastest on the GPS. I guess some guys are quick over 5'10" and then over 50, and other guys quicker over 100, so it'd be a good test there. I know Gill's really quick, Will's quick off the mark, Rico's probably good with about 40.
Yep.
Bodie might be up there around 100. Yeah, that longer.
Yeah. And for you?
With a rolling start, I go right.
Once you get going,
just got to get the legs going.
Yeah. What else about moving to 12? Obviously, a lot of time at 15 gives you good vision of the game. Have you been able to take those elements and bring it into 12 and make yourself a better 12 than maybe you were when you started at Canterbury?
I think with me being quite versatile at a young age and playing almost every position in the back line, it gives you a good perspective of what other players want out of you and what you need out of them. So it was great for my growth, and in some ways probably fast-tracked my footy IQ a wee bit, and just understood what was required in each position and what you need out of each other, really. And within, I guess, systematically, once you're in multi-phase, 10, 12s, 15s, wingers even now, all the roles are interchangeable, but it's just those little things around set piece where you got to make little adjustments. Half a second can mean a lot, and off set piece, particularly the way different teams are defending and the way you go in and game plan each week. Now that changes from week to week, and internationally it happens every week, and you got to adjust your game like that. But the versatility's helped me. In that aspect, I feel.
We've talked a lot on this podcast around the breakdown area. And if you probably look at the last 2 games that you boys have played, the starts that you guys have had in the areas around the breakdown have been a lot better, yourself included, being able to get over that advantage line. But one element that we've been really enjoying seeing is the attacking kicks. Now, when it comes from the 10, 9, yourself, 13s, all the back line can kick, but maybe just give us a little insight around how that's changed, because it seems like the attacking game, especially against the Springboks, the attacking kicks and being able to get there, what that's been the improvement, how that's been improved.
Yeah, it's like the Springboks and any team that defend so physically, real tight, not really zonal focused, they're just focused on bodies, and sometimes they'll be, even off turnovers or quick ball, you see Fainga'anuku or their wingers, they'll fly up 3 or 4 bodies in and not too worried about that space for wingers. And I guess teams that defend like that, they feel as though they can just cut off that pass all the time, and if you don't depart late enough, or you don't have the ability to get that skill away, you've got to be able to access it somewhere else, some way or another. So we've looked at that with various parts of kicking game, those short kicks, just to shape the way teams are going to defend, and if you do one early in the game, it's going to be in the back of their mind. And but it changes every week. Some other teams will be quite passive and there's no real kick space, or any time you throw big wide passes, they'll just push off and lap it up. So that short kicking game, even just kick passes to wingers and longer, you just got to have a lot of variation, and it's key that in your back line you got 3 or 4 guys that have the ability to be able to do that.
And it seems to me that you've all got different roles as well within the kicking. On the weekend, Richie kicking at goals, you were kicking for touch, Bodie was doing kick-offs. Like it's a real horses for courses mentality.
In some ways, we feel it's just best man for the job, or whoever's comfortable. We're not too rigid in that space. Within a week, we'll get through our normal routines. We'll all goal kick, we'll all kick for touch, we'll do our short kicking routines, and whoever's required in the game, depending on selections, we'll just have a conversation normally on a Thursday or a Friday, a captain's run. And Richie might just say, do you want to do kicks for touch? And I'll be like, sweet as, and he'll kick goals, and Bodie will do restarts, or Damien will kick goals, and that's just the way it works. And we all want to kick and impact the game that way, but we just feel like we can pose our strengths. It's most beneficial for the team.
Yeah, and the World Cup's obviously coming up not too far away, and you look at the likes of the French and the Irish obviously came down here last year and were really successful. There is it where you just touched on the breakdown and obviously the kicking game with the high speed pressure. Is there anything else that you guys are working on, knowing that you're going to be able to play the French in that quarter-final stage, might be against South Africa again, or the French who are playing really well at home?
Yeah, like you just said, the breakdown, it can be a coin toss if you allow it to be these days. There's so many different interpretations, and so many teams, particularly with the way we play and try to play high and fast tempo, that's the first place they'll try and stop you at the source. If it's not scrum or line out, it's breakdown. And the ability for the ball carrier to control the ball for a start, and then the 2 support players just to clean that space so quickly, it just sets everything else up so quick. So it's an area we've been putting a lot of time into in the last couple of years. In particular, Joe Smith has driven a lot of that, and it's key. You can't do anything without the ball, and every time someone carries, there's a breakdown. So whether you like it or not, you just got to learn to love it.
Some teams obviously going to be a little more passive in the tip lines. You look at the Argentinian game, Frizzell obviously Scooter went through from the ball from Frizzell. They obviously got really good quick ball. Then I thought on the weekend against the South Africans, you guys were a lot tighter. Was that just obviously the mindset, bigger men, and just being able to have a real clear role, make it real easy for quick ball?
Yeah, for sure. A couple of aspects. If you get too wide, any time with the ball in the air with a line speed team, they're just going to land on you, and you're not going to have any time on the ball. Whereas if we felt we'd just tighten up a little bit, get a little bit closer, get the ball earlier, a bit of time for footwork, it's the only real way around it. Whether you like it or not, you can't play wider or flatter into their strengths, otherwise you're just not going to be able to have any ball. But it's something that's having to be varied from week to week, and like you said, just for that short passing game, it's a lot easier to recycle ball when you're getting a one-on-one tackle rather than two shoulders versus one ball carrier, and that's the way we're sort of looking at the game at the moment.
Do you enjoy a clean out? Is that something that part of your
I've had to learn to like it. A lot of it's just mental, and just winning that race. A lot of the time, if you get there quick enough, you don't have to get into a slogfest with a loose forward or a hooker or someone who's harder over the ball. So if you just get there nice and fast, you solve a lot of your problems.
How have you found defensively, 15 to 12, probably a lot more tackles and around that, especially against big men? Have you found that combination also with Rico and working together and that cohesion to be able to have a good formidable pairing? Yeah, defensively, two completely different games, I feel. 15, you're covering a lot of metres, and generally if the ball doesn't go to you when you're at the back, you've done a good job because you've covered that space or you've communicated with your wingers or the other person in the backfield. So a lot of unseen work there. And midfield, it's a lot of the game now is just trying to stop teams at source and that first phase where if you don't allow them any momentum on strike, well then it allows your fold to come and your big boys to be able to get square with the collision. So that's probably been the toughest aspect, defending in that transition zone with a lot of traffic. The pitches change all the time. You're dealing with big athletes and you got to be technically sound.
You've also got Rico outside you, who brings a lot of line speed. Does that help you with those decisions you make through those areas?
It does. The great thing working with Rico, he's got a lot of speed and he can back that speed. So not too often he'll get burnt, and it's moving every single week. We're never going to be masters of our craft, and different oppositions, different specials that teams will throw at us. We just got to be really aware of it and look for cues and communicate really well. So we've got a real big desire just to try and get better every week, us two, and of course all the other midfielders as well. It's such a hard place to defend sometimes. You got to do a lot of work and dealing with some good athletes.
Rico's obviously got an amazing highlights reel. What do we not see that he does really well?
He does a lot of good traditional midfield work, kick chase. I feel he's one of the best midfielders in the world at wide breakdown, particularly counter ruck and collision. Often if he's in a wide collision, he'll survive that collision quite well and then go through and put a lot of pressure on opposition ruck, and that's invaluable for a defensive line. Gives you the ability to get set and come forward and be physical in the next one. So a lot of that work, I guess if you're on TV it's hard to see because it's always zoned in, but if you're looking at a bit of analysis and you're on the laptops, you go to the wide view and you see the guys that are working pretty hard, and normally he's one of them.
Well, thank you very much, Jordie. We appreciate your time, and good luck for the coming weeks.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
So the question is, will Jordie Barrett play against the Springboks in a couple of weeks' time? Jipper, do you see that happening, or is it important that David Havili, who's only had a very small amount of rugby, gets his crack?
I've got to be consistent with what my thoughts have been. I think he has to start, but I think Davey can play that 23 role, especially with, obviously, you don't need to carry as many outsides when Rico can go to a winger, Bodie can go to first five, you can probably carry maybe a midfielder and one outside, or you could go for like a Damien McKenzie and a Davey Havili. But I think you got to get that combination back running hot. It's crucial when they're going well, when Rico and Jordie are going well, and we know that's our starting midfield. I think that would be my personal take.
Bryn?
Yeah, I think the fact that we've got one test match before that, before the opening of the World Cup, I think it's important to get that combination coming back in. So you have to think Jordie would start that South African game. We'd be pretty close to our top test match team leading into that Rugby World Cup. And then knowing the fact that, we actually do have some games where I think the likes of Davey will be able to build his rhythm in the terms of being able to get, an 80-minute performance or 70-minute performance to get his legs underneath him to be able to, if there is an injury, he's battle tested in the sense of game management and having some meaningful minutes. And so, that'll be to come to, I think, a lot of the squad in that early part after the French game. We've got the Italians, and I think that'll probably be, you have to think, maybe a full-strength All Black side. And the other two test matches, hate to say it, but, you'd have to think they're going to be convincing victories and giving the squad that ability to be able to play in those games as well. So, but to come back, I think Jordie starts that South African game going into France. and then using a bit of the squad for the rest of that, back into that first part of the pool play.
I reckon you could see potentially, I've just thought of this now, so don't laugh at me.
Let's go.
Like Anton and Havili, Leonard Brown and Havili on the bench. Bear with me here. I think you'd have to start Mark Talea, okay? Because if they replace the midfield, Rico goes to left wing, Mark Talea can go to right wing, Will Jordan can maybe slip back to fullback.
Or Havili.
Yeah, or Havili. I don't know, like, could you see that? Like, I know they're two midfielders, but Havili has the ability to, as you say, play fullback.
He's elite. He's an elite fullback.
Yeah.
He's good.
Well, and to be honest,
because Anton needs a run as well. You know, like, he hasn't had a lot of rugby either.
I know, but then it just comes back to, like you say, though, Jip, we probably want our best, you know, coming into that test match. We think Jordie, and I think, luckily, you talk around Rico, he can cover that wing position, and Davey can cover pretty much everything bar halfback. So his ability, the versatility that you can have on the bench, because he can cover 10 as well at a pinch. And then you've also got Anton who can cover second 5 centre. So, hey, mate, that could be something,
He
Jip.
looks so good at centre, Anton, I thought. Like, imagine a Havili, Leonard Brown.
Yeah.
Don't do it, Jip.
Let's see.
One thing I would say about ALB, we talked about it last week, is that he seems to be running with some serious determination. Like he's been told, gain line, son. We need gain line.
Oh, and he wants to start.
Yeah.
He knows that midfield's pretty rock solid set, so he's going to make every opportunity a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see how that all goes, but we've got a few weeks to analyse who's going to play in that game. So let's not go overboard today, because we've got to talk about things over the next couple of weeks.
There'll be a bit of NPC, you know, there's a bit of NPC. The NPC's lighting up.
Yeah, it was a Harbour Canterbury this weekend.
It is. I tell you what, that Auckland Bay of Plenty game was, wow. I don't know how Bay of Plenty lost that. Anyway.
Sullivan. The kick to win it.
Yeah.
Plenty of time to chat a bit of NPC in the coming
beautiful.
weeks. So we'll do a little of that. Plus, we'll also have Tamaiti Williams on the show next week, discovering what this new colossal All Black, he is a big man, is all about. So we'll catch up with him as well in the next coming weeks. But before we go, thank you very much, James Parsons, Bryn Hall down in Christchurch. Appreciate your time, and we'll catch you all again next week on the Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Mā te wā.